Hey, what's up, everybody? Will with Schedule Fly. Very excited today to have Marshall Davis on the phone. Marshall is in Raleigh, North Carolina, and he is the beverage director and bar manager at Centro. And Centro is, we've talked about Centro before. We've had another colleague of his from Centro on here. Pepe was on here last week. And Angela Salamanca, who started Centro, was been in our book. She's been on this podcast. She's a friend and an amazing lady, and so it seems like everybody that works with her. So Marshall and Angela actually have a new project that they're going to be working on, so we're going to find out all about that today. So Marshall, thank you very, very much for taking the time to do this.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So, okay, we'll dive right in, man. Tell me about your background in hospitality. When did you get started, and where have you been before you were part of Centro?
So, I guess my first steps into hospitality were, being a host at Applebee's when I was 16 years old. I grew up here in Raleigh and had quite a few jobs in my teens. I don't think I particularly excelled at any of those, but it made me spending money for the summers and all that.
Yeah.
And then, when I started college, I went off to Greensboro and started my degree and got lucky my first year of college and got a record deal, and ended up pursuing music for almost a decade.
Wow.
And I moved out to LA. We signed with the label out there and then spent basically the next 10 years touring, about 10 months out of the year.
Oh, that's cool, man. Well, hold on. I want to stop you there. I'm just that's fascinating. So what did you sing, or did you play an instrument, and what kind of music did y'all play?
I sang. This was actually my first band. I'd always been a music fan growing up. I was into, punk rock and stuff like that. And I met some guys at UNCG that were playing music. I had sung in my church choir, and there's a thing called the Raleigh Boys Choir here in Raleigh that I was a part of when I was a kid, but never did it in any sort of rock and roll way. And
certainly not punk rock. Yeah, okay.
No,
I'm with
certainly
you.
not punk rock. But I met these fellas, and we became friends through music, through similar taste in other music, and they needed some money to record. And I had a couple of jobs that I was decent at. And so I had a little bit of money, and I said, I'll help you out with the money to record if y'all let me play piano on one of the songs. I just want to say that I've, been a recording artist at some point in my life. So I helped him out with some extra money to get recording, and we went in the studio, and one thing led to another. The producer said that the singer that they had brought in, he didn't have the chops for it or whatever it was. And so my best friend at the time, Jeff, our drummer, he said, why don't you get in there and see what you can do? I heard you sang when you were a kid. I was like, yeah, well, I sang in church choir and stuff. He's like, well, it can't be too different. So I went in and sang on that record, and things worked out. And so a few weeks later, I became the singer of that band. The old singer quit. And then we started to pursue it a little bit heavier once we started getting some attention. So yeah.
Wow. So you guys got a record deal. You moved to LA. You were doing it for 10 years. Dude, that's a very tiny percentage of people that have bands have that opportunity, man. So that's badass. Awesome.
It was real fun. I mean, it definitely wasn't, my family wanted me to kind of run the straight path, and they'd always been supportive of my creative ventures. I'd always been into art. And, like I said, some music, but kind of in a different light. But like you said, opportunities like that don't come around too often. And I was doing well in school. I enjoyed school, but I figured it was now or never. So we did that. We had a few music videos hit MTV before it was, no music on that channel. And we did some international touring, and we were never superstars by any means, but I was able to see the world and have fun doing it for just shy of a decade. So
wow, that's really cool. Okay, so you did that. Then
I did that.
Did you come back? Were you doing hospitality any out there before you came back, or did you?
No, I really I was kind of out of it for almost almost all of my 20s, and then when I moved back, we decided to call it quits. Our drummer had a little girl, and we all started to kind of evaluate what we knew what our 20s looked like. We wanted to see what our 30s were going to look like, and I decided that if we weren't going to be doing the music full time, that I needed to kind of get it out of my system. So I shaved my head. I had long blonde hair at the time. I shaved my head, moved back to Raleigh, and enrolled at the School of Design at NC State, and started my degree there. Picked up kind of where I left off, and at the same time, I needed some work. So I got a job at a college bar as a bartender. It was called the Keg, and it was no frills. Just exactly what you'd expect, right across from the university. And at the same time, a contemporary of mine in the design school named Vincana, he was opening up a restaurant called Betamanda.
Van. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So Van, through connections and through the design department, I told everybody that, with the money I'd saved doing music, eventually I wanted to open a bar or restaurant. But, my experience there was fairly limited. I knew what I liked. I really loved the, entertaining aspect of everything. But I knew that to be good at it, I needed to start at the bottom and learn all the different stuff. So that's one of the reasons why I took the job as a bartender at this college bar, just to get some bartending experience. It seemed like everybody who was hiring wanted experience, but there was no way to get it. So I got the job there. Then I found out that Van was opening a restaurant. I reached out to him and asked him if I could be a line cook, just to cover my bases. And he found out about my story and put me in touch with his beverage coordinator, Jordan Hester. And Jordan said I'd be much better suited behind the bar than on the line. I was used to being around people and talking, and he said, that's half the battle behind the bar. So I took on that gig as well. I started at Betamanda, so I was juggling. I was part of the opening staff there at Beta, and simultaneously I had been promoted at the college bar to manager. So I was running the college bar, and I was bartending over at Betamanda. And it was under my stay at Beta that I really drank the Kool-Aid, for hospitality, and realized that this industry was something so much more than kind of what I had expected. I loved the culture there. And I loved, that Jordan was passionate about spirits. He kind of showed me that, that bartending was so much more than just putting stuff in a glass. So I got really into it, and they could see that I was really excited about learning new things. And around that same time, Van's good friend, Angela, was, chirping in his ear saying that she was trying to develop the second floor of her building a couple blocks over. And that's when Van and Jordan put me in touch with Angela, and I interviewed for the position of the bar manager at Gaia Palone. So that gets us up to that point. And then, I went through the interviewing process, made some drinks for them, got to know them a little bit, and took that job. I quit my work at the Keg, and went full time into being the bar manager over at Centro and, the future Gaia Palone.
Let me stop you for a second, because
Sure.
This is okay, folks. So if you've been listening to the podcast, or you've read our books, or anything, you've probably heard Van and Angela and other people in Raleigh, and there's such a great. I just have to say, I'm never ceases to amaze me the type of people that are running independent restaurants there. So here, Van and Jordan took somebody who was a really important part of their team and openly went to somebody that they knew, a friend that was looking for somebody, and said, "Hey, man, this guy would be great." So here, it's just that kind of hospitality and that kind of way of doing business is such a. I just admire it a lot. I really do. If you go to schedulefly.com, folks, and you look at on our homepage at the bottom, there's a video about Betamanda and Van's story. He's an amazing guy. And anyway, that doesn't surprise me they did that, but it's just not something you hear about a lot, because honestly, finding and keeping good people is like one of the hardest things for restaurants to do. right now, and I'm sure it was, not that many years back then too. But they have a different way of approaching business and a different philosophy, and I just admire it a lot. So anyway, you're amongst great people, man. That's for sure. There's no doubt about that. Which I know
that's
you
the
know.
truth. Yeah. So that kind of got me in the door over at Centro. And right when the door had just closed behind me there, we got the news that Gallo Pallone was going to be postponed by a year and a half because of restrictions in the historic building that we were doing the renovation in and all this stuff. So here I am. I found myself quitting a pretty good paying salaried position over at this college bar. That was easy. It wasn't a difficult job. It was trying in that it was a different type of clientele, different type of service, all that stuff. But, I dropped that to do this new thing. And then we found out, oh no, the bar's not going to open for a year and a half. So I was faced with the decision to either go look for work elsewhere, or Angela offered me to become a host at Centro, making $9 an hour. And I just graduated college. I had, my living expenses had definitely increased, and quit the salary job. And I went from that to working as a host at Centro because I really believed in what she wanted to do with Gallo Pallone. I loved what she had already accomplished with Centro, and it just felt right. Just like you said, I knew that I was in good company. I knew that I was with people that really cared about what they were doing, and I wanted to be a part of it. So I worked as a host for 6 months until they had a position for me behind the bar. I bartended for a few months until they had, until we could start construction. And then once we were close enough for the business to afford to put me on the salary I was kind of promised, they did that. So I stuck around, and it was really a great experience because I got to learn every angle of that restaurant by working all different positions. And it definitely made me, more informed as to opening up this new business upstairs. So I wouldn't change it if I could. I really think it was valuable.
Gotcha.
And so that takes us up to 2015. We opened up Gallo in March of 2015, and I've been running the program there until today.
You said that it was when you were when working with Van that you started to drink the juice about hospitality and what it could be. And I know that Angela has very similar philosophies. Tell me more about that. What do you mean? Like what opened your eyes, and what did you see, and what did you see was possible, and what changed when you began working there?
So one of the first things I realized was that Angela, that Centro as a business was a beating heart. I mean, it was Angela and Natalia. Her cousin Natalia was running the front of house at the time, and it was this family. I mean, you walked in and you felt warm, you felt cozy. You weren't even thinking about food necessarily. You were just kind of welcomed into this space. And it was a different, Van and the crew over there, they have a similar, it's coming from a similar place, but it's still different, and the Latin American kind of sense of family in that building was both literal and, figurative, and they welcomed me in, and I really loved it. And, so from coming from, I did a split major in college with design and business, and everything in business, was all about these numbers. It was about, minimizing your cost and maximizing profits. And so I'm coming in, guns blazing. I want to do right by this woman, and I'm looking at things, and she, from the looks of things, she had never even considered that in any real sense. Like she would do these dinners and things where the menu itself she had put together by hand. It probably took her 5 hours to make the menus that she was using for this dinner. They probably cost, $6 or $7 in raw materials plus her time. And the dinner was, a $40 ticket to come to the dinner. It was like, I was looking at this from the back end saying, like, how are you going to make money? Like you're putting all this time and energy into these things. And she's the one that just kept, telling me, like, it's not about that short game. these people, my vision is they're going to come and have this amazing dinner, and they're going to take this menu home with them, and it's going to sit on their dresser because it's this piece of artwork. And, that had never, even as a design student, I'd never connected the two. And, the more I got to know Angela, I found out that she was in school at UNC for art. So we have this connection where we both, went to school to be artists and ended up in the restaurant business. And I think that is this common language that we share. And that's part of the reason why we've become partners now and why we want to do something together in the future, is that food and beverage can be so much more than just simply food and beverage.
Yeah. And what you can, I love that story a lot. Because I'm really fascinated by the idea, and we talk about this a lot on this podcast, but the measurables versus the immeasurables. The measurable is what you were looking at initially, the cost. The immeasurable, and it's a smart thing to look at, but then the immeasurable is the bigger picture, sort of like, the long game of what can I not measure, but what do I believe in my gut? What do my instincts tell me about the way people will react to this situation, and what could that mean? And you can't measure that. You don't know. You just,
Right.
But it's a style and a philosophy of running a business that focuses less on those things that you have to have your finger on it a little bit, but less on that and more on a bigger picture. And you described it like you said has a beating heart, right? Is that what was the exact way you put it?
Yeah, that Centro was that. Centro was a beating heart, is a beating heart.
Yeah.
So it was just really interesting to come into an environment that valued experience first, prioritized experience, and I really related to that, and I could get behind it because what made it even easier was the food was fantastic. She was. I'm sure that she spoke about it when you interviewed her, but she didn't intend on being the chef. She still laughs and shies away when people call her Chef Salamanca, because she was a chef by necessity when our chef passed away. And she always had a love of food, but she never saw herself in that light. And so coming into this business and tasting her food, tasting these recipes that are just, amazing, it was like, oh yeah, the food's good, but like, let's make this a beautiful experience for everybody. And so that tied into, the way that we communicate with the guests, the way our menus are designed, the way that we train our staff, everything. And the proof's in the pudding. Centro is the longest, to my knowledge, it's the longest running restaurant aside from McDonald's on Wilmington Street in downtown Raleigh. It's been there 11 years this September. And that's pretty awesome.
It really is awesome. It really is. But no surprise though, if you know Angela and just know the way she runs that business and the passion and love she has for it is really contagious.
Right.
Okay, so you two are now working on something going forward, a new project, and I am I'm very curious. What are y'all doing?
So we, like I said, we got together to do Gallo Polone because we wanted to bring something that was missing from North Carolina, which was mezcal. You could get some mezcal cocktails, around town, but no one was really focusing their program on it. And it was this amazing spirit. And obviously in bigger markets, mezcal bars have come up, but we were the first in North Carolina. And it was all about bringing that experience and that flavor and the culture and everything that goes into it to, our friends and guests. So in the same vein, we're opening up a new restaurant concept based around nixtamal, which I'm sure that there are businesses in North Carolina that use the process. I'm not sure how many are celebrating it, but it's the way that you make tortillas in Mexico. You're using heirloom Mexican corn, which is richer tenfold in nutrition than a lot of the domestic corns that we use here. And you have to treat it with an alkaline solution to break down kind of the shell of the kernel. because they're super dense. The growth cycle is longer in Mexico. And once you break down that shell, you can grind the corn with a special grinder, and what comes out is dough. So, as opposed to handmade or homemade tortillas that most people are familiar with, where you use, ground masa, you add water, seasoning, and create a dough, and then press that and cook it on a flat top. This is taking straight corn, 100%, grinding it, and what comes out becomes the tortilla, and without manipulation of water and seasoning and things like that.
What is the process called?
It's called nixtamalization. So
Okay.
nixtamalization.
Okay.
And it's essentially that, cooking a hard grain in an alkaline solution and then processing it. So we'll be basing the whole menu around nixtamal, doing tortillas as our as the big thing, but also doing tamales and gorditas and any other corn-based item that we can. We're going to step outside the box too and do some fun new things that we haven't seen done before. So it's a new opportunity to bring something super traditional and present it in a very traditional way, but also have part of the menu that's very playful. And we shy away from the fusion term, but using the cuisine that I grew up with here in North Carolina and playing around with some fun things.
That's really cool. So where are you in the process?
So right now we're going to be part of the Durham Food Hall, which should be opening up by the end of this year.
Okay.
And so we're going to have the flagship of this will be in that food hall. The company is called Ex-Voto, EX-VOTO.
Ex-Voto. Okay. What does that mean?
And ex-votos are it's a cultural kind of art form. It's an offering that you would have commissioned, and you would take it to a church and lay it at the altar. But if you search ex-votos, typically they're crafted by kind of amateur artists. So the art becomes kind of comical. And a lot of time the stories that people are giving thanks for are tall tales. A lot of these come from really rural parts of Mexico. So there's lots of miracles that are witnessed that someone wants to give thanks for. And so they would go to the artist and say, this is what I saw, this is what happened, I need you to draw this. And they would make a drawing, and then they would write kind of the story underneath, and then the person would take that to church and give thanks. So we're kind of basing that around the concept of this is our offering. This is another thing that we're, bringing to the state. And it's a really fun new way of looking at nixtamal.
Wow, that's really cool. That's exciting.
Yeah. So this will be happening at the food hall, and then the plan is to open up a production site here in Raleigh and start selling these tortillas wholesale, getting them out into grocery stores, getting them into restaurants, possibly selling the nixtamalized corn to other restaurants if they want to manipulate it in different ways. But basically bringing that process in a bigger scale to North Carolina.
So this is a really, this isn't a process we'll find anywhere else around here, it sounds like.
Right. There's some people doing it on a small scale. The reason no one's doing it more is it's super labor intensive. And so it's much easier to buy dried, maseca and press your tortillas and do it that way. But the flavor, anyone who's traveled through Mexico and had fresh tortillas there, there's no substitution for it. And we found, we went and worked down in the kitchen in South Carolina. There's a restaurant called Monero, and they're doing this process down there. Sean Brock's crew led us in the kitchen there and showed us the process, how they do it. We learned a lot from them, which is really great. And so now we're going to try to do it here. We're a few months out. Our grinder is being made as we speak in California. And we should have it in a couple weeks.
Oh, wow. Well, that's really cool. So do you go into it with excitement as well as, do you have concerns, or what's your mindset going? I haven't really spoken to anybody in a while, kind of pre-opening, going into something, particularly a new concept like that. What's going on through your mind?
Well, I'm definitely anxious to get the ball rolling. It's always, unless you're made of money and have all the time in the world, you can't really pause what you're doing elsewhere in life just to put energy into the new project. So right now I'm simultaneously managing these two restaurants and bar programs, and then trying to put some of my creative juices into this new thing. So we're far enough out where that's not an issue. But I know that in the coming months it's going to be something to tackle. So we've just hired my replacement at Centro, and we started training him today to free up some of my time. But I'm super excited about it. I think it's high time that food halls came to North Carolina, and we had been talking to a food hall here in Raleigh, trying to get the ball rolling there. We just couldn't quite get it to work out, and then we got the opportunity in Durham, and it seems like a really good fit for us. And especially to introduce this thing, it's a small scale restaurant concept, and we'll see if people are into it, and hopefully they are, and we can just keep growing. Definitely the long-term plan is to open up 3, 4, 5 of these in North Carolina in the coming years.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. So that's really big opportunity for you, for sure. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
I think Angela and I knew that we have really enjoyed working with each other over the past few years. And, it was getting to be the time where I was ready to start my own thing. And about the same time, Angela was getting the itch for her next thing. And, we were kind of going about it quietly in different directions. We hadn't really spoken too much about it, but we were just brainstorming, and we casually had a conversation about what we were thinking about doing next. And it was almost exactly the same idea. And we said, well, shoot, why do this two different ways? Why not team up and do this together? And it just, I couldn't imagine a better person to be in business with, and it should be really fun.
What let me ask you this. And you've touched on this a little bit, but what is the biggest thing you've learned from Angela?
Oh man. Let me think. The biggest thing I've learned from her, I think she's taught me a lot about being a strong leader. And it's a thing that I strive for all the time. She leads from her heart, and she takes care of her people first and foremost. I mean, if you need anything, she's going to make sure that you have it, and she'll find a way. So I think she just taught me a different perspective of running a business, being selfless, making sure that you're being responsible with the business so that you can continue to provide for the people that work for you. But it's not all about that bottom line. It's not all about how much money can they make for you. It's really about giving all these people a great life and a happy work environment, and something to be proud of. And I'd like to think that I had all that in me already. I mean, I was raised by a good family, and I've had a good life and all that. But it just made so much more sense coming from her from a business perspective. It was just like she opened that business to give opportunities to people, and it wasn't about bringing a better Mexican food to Raleigh. It wasn't about her, showcasing her talents or what, it wasn't about that. It was about, this is an opportunity doing something that I know that my family has some history in, and I can give a bunch of people who need work, I can give them a better working environment. And I just thought that was really cool. And it shows that it works. There's people that have been working for her for, 8, 9 years, and they're family. They go have dinner at her house. I think one of the first things that really struck me about Angela was I went away on a vacation. I was pulled away. It wasn't really a vacation, but I had to leave town for a week earlier on in my time with her. And when I came home, she had come by and mowed my lawn because she saw that my grass had gotten high. And
Wow.
she was just doing something, selfless. She knew that it was going to be a stress on me when I got back. She knew that it wasn't the best circumstances that had me leave. And she's just that type of woman. So that's who I want to work with. And that's who hopefully I've become and who others would want to work for.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's an amazing story. Yeah, an amazing lady for sure. Well, no wonder. What a great partner, and I'm sure you guys will have a lot of fun. And that's an extremely exciting project. I can't wait to kind of just keep in touch with y'all and see how it's going. And would love to get up there and check it out. So you said you think you'll open at the end of the year?
Yeah, the targeted date is November 1st, so it's rapidly approaching. But if this food hall is anything like the other couple of food halls that have been trying to get up and going in the triangle here, we might have some delays. But yeah, sooner than later. The construction has started. It's in the Liberty Building, right across from the farmers market. And as a food hall, the food hall has a stance on supporting all those local farmers. And so it's part of the contract, that everyone that's involved in this food hall is using as much local Durham produce as possible. So I'm excited about that, and excited to get pressing.
Absolutely. What an exciting time for sure. And congratulations, Marshall, and best of luck to you and Angela. You've got a wonderful organization that you're a part of, and I know you are busy, especially with all that going on, so I want to respect your time, but I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, and you have a really cool story, and just know you guys will be successful, but I know there's no guarantees, but y'all just keep doing what you're doing, and things will work out great, and I'm really excited for you and wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, cool. Well, listen, we'll let you roll. We'll talk again soon. Y'all get after it, and thanks a lot, and I'll let you know when I'm heading that way.
Okay, sounds good. I'll talk to you later.
All right, take care, Marshall.
Bye-bye.
Bye.